behind the scenes, the light and the flame, designing, producing, creating the name. From the rundown grind to the Emmy stage glory, they shape what we feel now. Tell us your story. Production roles, lights, camera, action. Let's wrap your life with emotion and passion. What's your story?
Hello and welcome into Storyteller at NAB from SiriusXM Studios. I'm Sky Muller, and I am thrilled to welcome on today's Storyteller guest, Tim DeLay, Senior Director of Operations at Altitude Sports and Entertainment. Tim, you've been coming through here the last few years at NAB. We finally got you on the stage. I'm excited for this.
I've always come in here, and of course I'm just jumping, talking to the salespeople and everything, and there's been stuff going on in this studio and everything, and I've just kind of, never really thought, what is going on? So yeah, somehow you guys wrote me in. I just kind of walked the wrong way, and here I am. Yeah,
and we shut the door, and we said you can't leave until you give us some answers.
Here and you talk to us. Yeah.
Talk to us how you usually build these things, but now you're sitting on the set, not having to worry about all the stuff going on behind the scenes.
It's kind of nice, though. I give kudos to the guys that are doing the buttons. Thank you very much, and don't have to worry about anything. Yeah,
and that's what this show's really about, though, is shining a light on the people that work behind the scenes and everything production, live production, storytelling. But before we get into all that, I like to crack open the show with the cold open, and it's kind of a fun question that's maybe not about production. You're a Wisconsin alum.
Yeah, go back.
And you were there in 93, 94 when they won the Rose Bowl. What's favorite memory from that Rose Bowl season?
Okay, yeah, I can do that easily. I was a fan of Section O, and my good friend and I we had student tickets, and we were in the O section, and then we beat Michigan, I believe, that year, and that was a highlight of that season very much. But I will tell you that I was watching the Rose Bowl game from my mom's, and I had just had my wisdom teeth pulled out. So I watched the game with gauze in my mouth. So, you're coming home from college, you had to get it done. And fortunately, that's how I watched it. But many years later, when we went back again in 2000, I got to work. I was working at WIC, the CBS affiliate in Madison. And I got to go and work it.
So no way.
A whole bunch of a different take on it as opposed to the wisdom teeth and the gauze and the blood. I got to be part of it, and it was exceptional. It was just totally exciting.
Well, we got it rolling behind you. You may.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, where's Ron Dane?
Yeah, maybe about to get the ball from
Darryl
Bevel,
Bevel,
Seahawk offensive coordinator.
Right,
I'm a big Seahawk fan.
This is, it's kind of sad to see. It's very true, though. My past is... like in standard def, right? Yeah. But that's the way it goes, I guess. I hadn't quite hit the HD time, but yeah, look, there we go.
This is.
I probably saw that play.
Yeah, gauze packed in, you're ready
that's
to.
Right, yeah.
Just wondering if what you were seeing was real or if the painkillers were doing their work.
Yeah, it's a great school. Our football team is not so fresh right now, so it's kind of fun to look back to when we were a lot better. Maybe we'll rebound here and beat Michigan. And Ohio
I think
State,
that's all that
really
happened.
Matters, yeah.
I think Fickle's got. He's still Did he?
Yeah, I think
I shouldn't talk too much about what I don't know about that.
Changed from that. It seems
I'm a Washington State alum, so our football program is in a tough spot as well. But
thanks for that.
Yeah, you're welcome. We're gonna go into Two Truths, No Lies, and this is just more about your career, fun stories from your career that are maybe hard to believe, but they're real. And I want to stay in your time, though, at the University of Wisconsin in Madison. And you had briefed me a little bit on you were running camera during a snowstorm. What was that like?
Oh, very good. Yeah. So the first time I ever ran a camera, a truck grade camera, was for the Wisconsin high school football championship, which was in Madison at Camp Randall. And so I was the endzone camera. And so, for a high school championship, you're not going to have the thousands of people, right? You just have the main fans from the school. So out there in the end zone, I was right by the field house, and I was the only one out there. So anyway, it was a cold November day, and my first time running it. And first it was cold, and had to go to the bathroom. That's number two. I remember that. And then the rain started throughout the game, and then it was ice. And then it was snow, and you've got the pads in your gloves to keep the heat and all that. And I was just, while the rest of the production was all on the main side, there was just me, that satellite out there, the endzone camera. And I just remember by the end of the game that I was just this snow, ice, wet, uncomfortable. And I remember Deb Piper, who was directing the game. She's still at WHA TV where I was working as a student. And she said, Tim, how'd you do? How'd you enjoy it? And I just remember saying I had a blast. It was so much fun. So, through all the elements and everything like that, I realized that TV was the right fit. Because if I can go through that my first time, then I'm in the right area.
Have you been back in a situation like that again?
It's more kind of the conditions are not as evasive with the weather, but it's more like in meetings per se, or budgetary talks.
Yeah, some ice cold budget talks.
I think that those instances help build character for those conversations when you're trying to get new technologies installed, or trying to work through problems and things like that. So it definitely builds character.
I think it does, absolutely. Just out there living in the elements gets you ready for anything you might go through. Let's keep working through some of your career. I know you spent a lot of time as a satellite truck operator. Today's world, now we have bonded cellular. It's a backpack.
Use it a lot.
You use it live view, or is it live view?
Live view, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So people maybe don't even know how it once used to work. Give us what stories from your satellite truck days that really paint a picture of what that was like.
Yeah, I was working at KWGN in Denver as the operations manager, and we got purchased by another company. And so, unfortunately, it was during the recession in 08, 09.
Okay.
And so, luckily, I still feel blessed to this day. I was able to kind of pivot, from an office and working in news to being a satellite truck engineer, because I had that in my background. And so during those kind of tougher years, I got to run a truck for Peak Uplink in the West there, and covered everything from like West Virginia to LA to Seattle. Drove this truck around, through the vast
all over the country.
Utah, it's pretty lonely roads and everything, with a $750,000 truck. But a lot of interesting experiences, a lot of fun ones. Doing collegiate games. The Mountain West Network was something that we did. So I was doing basketball games at CSU, Air Force, or down at TCU, even, wherever the Mountain West at that time was. And so breaking news, sometimes it'd be the first on the scene for something. Sometimes some bad stuff. The Aurora shooting, I was the first truck there. That's a memory that is sad, and I'm glad I don't have to be part of that anymore. But I will say this, one of my memories is there was a Charlie Sheen thing that happened up in Aspen it was, yes. And I was working for ABC, doing their Good Morning America hits, right? And so just so everybody's aware that on the East Coast, it's early for that time, right? Well, when you're 2 hours different in Mountain, it's even worse, right? So your call time is like 2:30 a.m. And, I remember showing up, and it was some kind of breaking news or whatever, but it was snowing, and it was 3 a.m, and they just wanted to go live. And I remember setting that thing up and finding the satellite in 5 minutes.
Really?
And that's the one memory I can take away from that experience. Like, you just got to keep a cool head. And, again, it helps build character. Again, it's connected with snow. I never thought about that.
Yeah.
Maybe I just have to be cold and miserable
Yeah,
and learn a life lesson.
That's when you're really in your element, is when you're freezing and you're like, I need to get out of here. And
Right.
to get this. I hadn't considered the fact that you were driving around, everyone else is on the road in their cars, but you're driving around this, $750,000 vehicle. That had to be nervous, because you're driving through snowstorms too, probably at times.
Yeah, going over mountain passes, and you got the auto chains, which they hang, and you hit the button and they start spinning around. So, when you're going up or down, I have driven through some snowstorms in Colorado, Utah, and Wyoming. I had the heater go out once on me, so that was a miserable ride. But so there's a lot of interesting character building stories from those days running the satellite truck. It was very nice to kind of transition to start working in altitude sports then, where I had a set schedule and I didn't have to be out in the elements.
Let's get a little into altitude sports. Behind the build, we call it. It takes us behind the scenes a little bit of some productions that you have going on. You've had a couple, lots. You do hundreds of productions a year, but I want to get specifically into two massive ones that not everyone gets to do, and that's championship parades. You had the Avs championship parade, you had the Nuggets championship parade, back-to-back years, 22 and 23. Yeah. What goes into bringing those to life?
From my perspective, it's just a lot of logistics, right?
Yeah.
And it is, I think both of those are probably the most memorable career things. Also doing the DNC when I worked in news, that was such a big deal too. That was one I will remember pulling off, and the parades obviously are something that, I'll always think about because the energy is just all positive, right? You're surrounded by, 60 to 100,000 people in Denver and they're all cheering, they're having a great time. The team is just glowing. So experiences from both of those are very positive. It's really when everybody on your team in the production department or my group, the production operations department, really are at their best. Everybody knows that this is a gem for us and we have to deliver. We have to, there you go.
There we go.
Very good. Yeah, thank you. So it's, I do have a story about the Avalanche Parade, which we can dig into if you'd like, but from just a perspective of technology and all that, it's just another, for folks that work in the operational side, that's really when everything that you've worked for comes together, and you've got to think quickly, right? Because you don't know if it's going to happen, right? I mean, especially if it's like going to games 5, 6, or 7. But yet you still have to plan for it, right? And luckily, I have gone through those processes and it's landed. But there's, for the other team, like the team that we beat, they're going through those same processes too, or you hope they are.
Yeah, right.
Because they, so.
And then they don't ever see.
And then
they
don't. Yeah. So it's, you're trying to scramble trucks, you're trying to scramble crew, you're trying to get a jib, and you're working with the city. Where you're trying to whitelist internet, so you can get all your stuff. It's the minutia, right? It's a lot of stress, but I'm happy to say I'm very proud of the coverage that we've done of both parades, our talent and everything like that. It's chaos that somehow comes together, and you just get all the right people in place. And even though it's kind of a new way, that new to us. It just kind of falls into place. Everyone's on their A game, their A+ game when you hit a championship parade. And so, I was so happy when we did the Nuggets parade the following year because I'm like, okay, I know how to do this.
Yeah.
I know, the first year was a little bit of course, nervousness. But then we were so blessed to have the Nuggets win that I'm like, okay, we know the parade route. We know what vendors we're going to use. We know the challenges that we have. But I will tell you a story about the 22 parade, and that is, I did that with a herniated disc. So, and I just have to say it because I can't think about doing my first parade without thinking about those ice packs in the truck, and changing them out, and everything. And I remember just, hobbling onto the, downtown, from where I parked, and I was in an excruciating amount of pain, and I thought at the time it wasn't a herniated disc. I would find out later, but that just kind of shows you the mindset. It's like it's go time. It's like a parade. You got to show up, and I did kind of walk like this all over the place, but my brains was kept working, and I needed it to, so I just had to get through there. And after the parade, I will say, while everyone went to celebrate, I went to the chiropractor. So,
oh, no way, really?
And then the whole next month, July, was in the doctors and like, oh, you actually have a herniated disc.
And you're like,
I'm like, oh,
all right.
That's why the pain. So, again, it's just more, I bring that up because I'll never forget about it. But, you don't think about the pain per se or the ice packs. You just think about, I showed up, I was able to, pull through for the most important thing in my career.
That's live TV.
That's
right?
live TV, right? Broadcast, right?
That is awesome. I mean, I love that story because, I'm sure the players are hurting at the end of a long season. Now you're hurting here. It's a grind on your side as well.
Yeah, it is. I mean, the players, I think we all get paid on the same day. Right?
Yeah.
I don't know about the amounts that get deposited in our accounts, but yes, just like a player.
What comes to my mind is just the size of, like you said, 100,000, some 200, 300, like the audiences that show up to these parades is crazy. And I have to imagine when it's your first one, and if I don't know if you did bonded cellular or anything like that, like there had to be some things that you didn't know for sure how things were going to react until you were in it.
Yeah. So I was, we talked about live view, which is ironic since I used to be a satellite truck engineer, right?
Yeah.
We talked about driving the big truck around. Now I can throw it on my back.
That's
I mean, it's just, but I love that too.
Yeah.
So live view was a very important aspect. The bonded cellular was very important for our success on the parade because we had to get it set up in the truck. We got 4 backpacks. I got extenders that had to fit on the fire trucks, right? Mm-hmm. And you're thinking about batteries because the batteries have to last long enough, or can we plug it in? Do they have an AC outlet on the truck, that we can use? All those fine details. And basically had a shipment arrive at my house, and I unpacked them and got them all prepped. So then the next day we met before the parade, and I handed them out to the different photographers that were going to be in the different positions. And so interesting story about the parades was, if you're familiar with Denver, the 17th Street is the main drag that goes down with the fire Denver fire trucks, and the players are on them and waving and everything, right? And so for us, what we noticed that first year is once you hit a certain street, you lose your video. It start breaking up, you lose your video. You still have your audio, right? Because the way that works is video is going to suck up more bandwidth, so you're going to lose that first. But we still have the audio. And so the guy in the first truck, his live view started fading away. So we would switch to different cameras, but we could still hear the interviews if they were talking. And then he'd go away completely. And then the guy in the second fire truck, once he hit that same spot, he'd have that happen too. But then the other guy would be up and going. So, these are the kind of things. And I just remember telling the producer and director, I'm like, there's nothing we can do about that. We're just going to have to cut around that. Hey, Tim, the live views, we're not going to be able to do anything. We got, 60,000 people here with cell phones, but you make it work. Mm-hmm. And, so when we did the Nuggets Parade the following year, we had similar stuff like that happen, but we were ready for it. We knew that, you just never know. But yeah, with thousands of fans there cheering, shooting videos, posting on their socials, we're competing with bonded cellular. But luckily we have some, technologies now where we can be first to tower.
Yeah.
We can, and I did have some of those services, but they're even better now.
Wow.
So the bonded cellular companies are working out deals with Verizon and AT&T, stuff like that, where they can go first to tower. So
I just love the picture you paint of what's happening in the truck during these, and you're just like, just roll with it. And that's it. And you make it work. And honestly, people don't realize it 99% of the times, as long as you don't go to black.
Yeah, no, and it's that example right there where, you lose video first, but let's say we're interviewing.
Yeah.
Right? But then you just cut away to another shot.
Exactly.
Right? The interview still keeps going on. There's still craziness. And on our production side, we have our directors for the Denver Nuggets, or the Colorado Avalanche. They're doing the parade, right? So they're the utmost pros, my counterparts on that side of things. So that they can take these, because they've seen it all in the truck, right?
Yeah.
If you travel on the road, which they do, they've experienced every kind of technical problem, right?
Oh, yeah. So,
in this kind of instance, that's when, these people that have been working in the field for a long time and, you present a new challenge to them and they find ways to work around it. So you got to have that kind of mindset in live television, right? Something's going to go wrong. It's okay.
And
just work around it.
In our production playbook here, I think it transitions well because I don't know what the number is. You may know. I know it's over 250 live broadcasts a year, right? Is it?
Yeah, for Altitude Sports.
Yeah, for Altitude Sports.
Yeah, so we're, our bread and butter is the Denver Nuggets,
yeah.
Colorado Avalanche, right? But we also, have the Colorado Mammoth that we air. Apple TV now airs our Colorado Rapids, because they have a deal with them,
Yep.
but we used to air them as well. So we do high school football. We do Denver University basketball and hockey.
You even do Rams preseason, don't you?
We do Rams preseason. Yeah. So our cousins and Altitude is part of a bigger group, KSC, Kroenke Sports and Entertainment. And, we have our company, parent company, owns the Arsenal, all the way from the Arsenal across the pond to the LA Rams.
Wow.
And all those teams that I just mentioned, including the venue. Ball Arena in Denver and SoFi Stadium, of course.
Yes.
But yes, we love doing football. We love the fact that for our, friends out in LA, our cousins, if you will, that we get to do the 3 preseason games. And I think what's special about that is sometimes our preseason, if you're watching, a local affiliate might be doing the game and they're doing their best, but they don't do it all, everyone's used to watching Fox,
Yeah.
CBS, right? And they're used to that level, the high quality that the NFL, games that we all watch on Sunday. So what we do is we come in and we give the preseason games basically a NHL, NBA level production, right? Because that's what we do most of the year. So being able to pivot then over to doing NFL is fun for us because we check that box then too. So we're like, oh yeah, we do NFL too. So it's a relationship that started in St. Louis and is continued now, with LA. And, we really enjoy working with them. They're a great group. And I think they keep asking for us to come back. So we must be doing something right. But it's fun for us.
How key is just production flexibility, and when you're doing this many productions, maybe different tiers of productions? I mean, it sounds like you bring A tier to all of them, but still, like, how key is having some production flexibility in everything you're doing here?
Well, it all comes down to the budget, right?
Yeah.
So that's production flexibility is very poignant because, if we're going to do, let's say, New Mexico basketball or baseball, some of the other products that, that we air, how much do we have budgeted for that? It's all scalable, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to, we've got a deal where we take their output of their production control room.
Okay.
They've got a graphics package. We don't have a whole lot of play into that, but we air it, right? So that the minimal cost for getting that production on the air. If we go to like a Denver Nuggets, especially or Colorado Avalanche round 1, where we are presently right now as of taping, we're trying to throw everything at it, right? So the numbers are going up a little bit, and you got to be a little bit scalable, scale up, because you're trying to give our viewers here, we've got one last, round here before it goes over to all the nationals.
Right.
So we're trying to give them as much as we possibly can. And again, like the praise, everyone's on their A game. So
Wow.
yeah, you got to be scalable.
Yeah.
And it just matters, you've got a certain amount of your budget, so you have to divvy it up between the priorities.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously the bigger, drivers like the Nuggets and the Avalanche are going to get the most of that pot, which they should.
We talk a lot about the linear side, but I know in looking kind of future looking, you mentioned that the future of broadcasting is the intersection of linear and digital. What does that currently look like at Altitude, and how are you kind of blending the two?
Yeah, that is right. That is like the question of 2026,
Yeah,
right?
it
In
is.
2025 and 24 in the future. So, we find ourselves at an impasse right now with the younger generations using, their phones or tablets to consume. But yet people with the color of my hair still, watching, off of DirecTV, whatever that it might be, that linear side, right? And so you can't necessarily go all in on one or the other, right? You have to be flexible. There's that word again. You have to be flexible, and you have to cater to both areas to make sure that our younger viewers or people my age or whatever that want to consume it, watch via our app or whatnot, that they're able to do whatever they can. And so we're in a transitionary period right now in 2026, as we've been for a while. And I think the pandemic kind of sped that up.
Yeah.
And so, eventually I think we'll get to a full digital experience at some point. And that's fine. You've got to stay on top of technology. You've got to roll with the changes and everything. If you got to evolve or you get left behind, right? That's kind of very true for broadcasting. And so that's one thing too, remain nimble. So to dig a little bit deeper, we're very proud of some of the things that we've had happen at Altitude, because we're just a one-off RSN, right? There are other RSN groups, and the landscape is very difficult presently. But for us, being owned and operated by our parent company and being part of a system where the owner owns the arena and the team and the broadcasting group and the digital groups, if people follow the Denver Nuggets Instagram account, right? That's the same company that owns Altitude, right? So we're finding ways, and I'm really proud of our executive management and everybody in all of our groups for trying to be forward thinkers and, putting a lot of emphasis still into our distribution with the linear side, but also being very cognitive of the fact that we're trying to increase our digital subscribers on Altitude Plus, which is our app. And We're at 44,000 subscribers. We're very proud of that. We were even mentioned in a recent article about increased viewership for NBA teams, and and we were like number one. So kudos to our fans in Denver and across the country and world. But yeah, we're just going to keep looking at doing stuff. Skycam is another product of our company, and so we've got Skycam installed at Ball Arena, and so that's another opportunity where we can take innovation and we can offer it to our Altitude Plus subscribers. And so if they want, they can watch. They can go on the app and they can watch the game production that we're doing, that we've always done. And then we'll put the Skycam look up there too. And so they can kind of watch, if they want to watch them together on their tablet or phone or whatever, or stream it on their television. So, that's stuff that's going on right now to be relevant to our fan base, regardless of how they're consuming it.
And I was going to ask you, how does the product look different on Altitude Plus than linear? And you just told me you have optionality with your viewership. You have the Skycam, and I assume that's just going to grow. Of like maybe there's a stat cast or possibly and things. I know some people are trying that, but that's the personalization of a broadcast seems to be a big thing. Do you agree with that?
Totally. And I've been thinking about it here since we're at the NAB conference, and just talking to certain vendors, and not only thinking about ideas for the linear productions, but also that's something that we could maybe do on our streaming channel, or add as an add-on special for the folks that are paying for that service, to make it a little bit different, to encourage an increase. You're trying to get more and more people on it. It's to offer more services. And so there's definitely something, like we were thinking about Skycam and maybe some kind of specialized graphics that a vendor and I were just talking about yesterday. To kind of change things up. It's a playground for you to kind of test things out and see what kind of feedback you get from your viewers, and to see what they think. Like it's a good time to try stuff out. That's not all going to work. That's okay.
Right.
But it's what I'm finding is we've tried to do secondary things on our Altitude 2 channel if we just have one event, right? And it's just a little harder on the linear side, right? But the streaming really opens up new avenues for you to test out things, provide content there, and you get the data, the analytics. What are people watching? They like that. Let's do more of that. Or they're not watching that at all. Stuff like that. So it's exciting. It's realm to be.
Testing playground out there where maybe not as much. You're allowed to fail a little bit more than you think you are on the linear side, and test new things. And I think the audiences appreciate when companies do that as well. So, but Tim, the subscriber growth on Altitude TV Plus is awesome. The stories from your entire career, I've appreciated all of it. Thank you so much for joining us on Storyteller today.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it.